Welcome to the third episode of Energy Realty's Real Talk. And today I'm so happy to be here with Renée Eads, Energy Realty's Relocation Director. And Renée joined Energy Realty about 2 years ago because we really saw a need for someone that was going to really be connected in the relocation industry and also know how to manage the referrals that come in. A big part of our business has always been relocation. So Renée came to me. We just kind of ran into each other at a seminar, and she just comes to us with 25 years of expertise working for multiple big brokerages. So I was really lucky to snag her. And since then, she and I have attended a couple relocation conferences, and I'm just so impressed, Renée, everywhere I go, people in this industry around the United States. So welcome. So glad to have you on this third episode. So what I think the biggest question is people ask, especially realtors, right? Because when you're working in relo, there's a huge referral fee. That bad word, referral fee. What, in your professional opinion, is so important about relocation in any market?
There's a lot of different reasons why people relocate, whether it's for personal reasons, it being closer to the grandchildren, retirement time, they have adult children that are going to college and they want to have investment property, things like that. Or the most common one that we all know is a job transfer, which is a little bit different on the corporate side than it is personally. Yeah, the same but different.
Yes. And in Houston, we have a big market for international relocation, right? And so I think it was a few years ago, I read something that said 30% of our home buyers, are from other countries. Do you know what that number is today?
I really don't off the top of my head, but I know it's still up there.
Yeah, it's pretty substantial.
Same or a little bit more.
And all that is driven by oil and gas. Obviously, Houston is probably going to be the number one reason why we see people from around the world. But you made the decision to join Energy Realty, not just because you like me and that we're both Virgos, right? Because that's a huge connection for us. But also because I think that Energy Realty is a little bit more unique when it comes to relocation.
Definitely, yeah. Speaking 12 different languages, and each person that speaks those different languages has either lived or is originally from that country. It says that makes it very different and sets us apart tremendously.
Yeah. And how do you think, I know my answer to that, but, since you worked in relocation a lot longer than I have, what do you think? How do you think that helps with those people coming from other countries?
It makes the bond and the match a lot easier from the get-go, if you will, because the culture is already established.
Yeah.
Everyone understands the culture. The realtor understands where they're coming from. Yes, and can explain it because they've also relocated to the U.S. Maybe not Houston originally, but eventually they got here as fast as they could. And they can help explain those nuances of not only being new to the greater Houston area, because we all know it's a little bit different because we do call our streets 2 or 3 different names on that itself. Yeah, and that's just the start to dive deeper down into communities to be able to explain that. But firsthand experience is always best.
Yes. Well, and I think a lot of people don't realize that even before I started Energy Realty, I moved here from France, Paris. I know it sounds a little glamorous, but came from Africa, then from Paris. And I actually got my real estate license again for a second time in my lifetime because I felt the need to help people relocate from French countries. So my business was all built on relocation. But I talk to so many realtors today and they say, no, we don't do relocation anymore. And it's because of that bad word, referral fee. How are you talking to realtors today about the referral fee, and how should realtors think about that differently in that
Well, it
negative?
shouldn't be looked at as a negative. It's a cost of business.
Yeah.
And that's business you wouldn't have had to begin with necessarily. Now, they may be clients of yours in the first place. However, there's different things that offset expenses. So you have to look at it as a cost of business because you're paying for business, even if you want to think about it, that you are not. You're doing client gifts, you're doing different things on your own, appreciation type of parties and networking events. For clients, it's kind of the same thing.
And I think what I try to tell our, realtors, other realtors, because I think our realtors are accustomed to that because we have an international team of realtors. They're all very comfortable working with those relocation clients, whether it starts with that $1,500 a month lease, or sometimes that client becomes that $2 million buyer. I think our realtors understand that those relationships are important. And the key thing that I've always felt is that relocation buyer or renter has to move. And I found that in my experience that you make lifetime clients from those. That is true. Relocation clients that are a little bit different than your local. Yes.
That is true.
What are some other tips that you would give realtors when they're trying to navigate with an international client relocating here?
Communicate, communicate, communicate.
Communicate about
Everything.
starting from
Whatever their communication love languages, if you will, communicate that way. Face to face is best. We have technology. Do the Zoom meet, do the Google Meet first, especially if they are still overseas on your initial engagement with them.
Yeah.
And then, they know who you are. They know what you look like. It's not just a picture on the internet. They know you.
Yeah. Well, that connection
That's what it's about.
is so important. And there's a lot, and this is where I always felt like realtors need to have empathy for the people that are moving and a real understanding of what they're going through. And especially when they're coming from a foreign country, they're juggling a lot. They're juggling how they're going to move their furniture, how they're going to get their kids in school, where they're going to bank, all of those unknowns that they're stepping into, especially when coming from a foreign country. And that's why I love that idea, Renee. You got to have that face to face. I mean, Zoom did not exist 25 years ago.
It's a blessing now.
But yeah, which brings me into another question. Zoom did not exist. You've probably seen this evolution of relocation. We're seeing an evolution of real estate alone. How is relocation evolving with all the new technology, all the changes that we're seeing just in the last 20 years?
Well, it's ebb and flows, but it does make the communication easier and to make those connections a lot easier because you feel the energy from that person, even though it's the closest that we can get to this, sitting across from someone and actually having a conversation. Like having that on a Zoom or Google Meet is huge.
Yes. But also to, what do we call, to avoid that water cooler talk that might occur and cause some confusion when they're trying to relocate to another place.
Well, that helps too because they get to know you.
Yeah.
You get to know them.
Yes.
And they can actually say, well, I met Sherry. We had a conversation. Did your realtor do that with you?
Yeah.
It's not everybody's embracing it. And so to set yourself apart, taking those extra steps to make the time, even though there's time difference, somebody has to do the give and take with that. They're across the globe. And as a realtor, we should do it now. Yeah, not expecting our clients to do that. Yeah. And have those conversations.
No, I think so. I think it makes a big difference. And we find that when our realtors make that connection before those people arrive, it's a much smoother process, transaction. The experience is better for everybody.
And having both parties, a married couple, whoever's actually relocating together needs to be on call.
Yes. So kind of explain, because I think if you're new to relocation, understanding the different tiers of relocation. You're a relocation director at Energy Realty. Most of the referrals are coming from a relocation company. There's another layer of that, which if you're not in the industry, you don't understand that, is a DSP, right? Destination Services Provider is what DSP, the acronym, stands for. Can you kind of tell our audience about, what the different layers are and how that works and how everybody plays a role. All those different companies play a role in that
So
program.
corporations contract with relocation management companies to help transferees move from point A to point B, whether it's domestic or international. And from there, the counselor with the relocation management company will contact realtors in the area where destination, origination, or both, whatever the client needs. And so there's a lot of people involved. There's a lot of moving parts just on the real estate side. Because in addition to that, there's household news, uh, meaning moving companies that are involved as well, that the relocation management company has associations with, mortgage lenders and title companies and so on and so forth. So we're just a small piece on the real estate part of it in itself.
And when you keep talking about communication, all of those moving parts have to communicate with each other.
And that's where the relocation management company counselor is the first point, the main point of contact for that transferee.
Yeah. And that's a huge part of it, because you got the relocation company handling certain parts of housing, but they're the ones that are ultimately responsible to the corporate
Correct.
company. And then the destination services provider might be working on visas, driver's licenses, all those parts. And then the realtor is then communicating on the housing needs.
Yes.
So whether it comes down to the rental or the sale part. So lots going on. And I think you have introduced us to a wonderful program that we now have in Energy Realty, because with all those moving parts, part of your job is, right, you're handling, making sure that that communication is happening. Yes. So tell us about that, because that I never even knew, and that has had to evolve. As far as the software that's available, managing all the different.
Flipping to our softwares, and the one that we chose to go with was a relocation, and it is a phenomenal product in my opinion. I've been using it for several years, but to be able to streamline everything in the process and to make it easier on the realtors themselves, and also for myself, to make sure the information gets to the appropriate parties in the correct amount of time so that they can meet their meetings correctly. And we're all here to make each other look good. Yeah. And do our jobs and do it on time and meet deadlines, no matter what aspect of the process we're in. Because everybody has to answer to somebody for something. Yes, to make it happen. And you get the transferee from their old job to their new position as quickly and smoothly as possible. In addition to moving the family the entire time, because a lot of times there'll be a trailing spouse that's staying behind with the children, especially if they're school age and they have to stay in school. And so we as realtors need to help keep everybody calm and things move as smoothly as possible during that time because now in this day and age, we also have our parents, our senior parents that a lot of people are responsible for, and pets assisting, and pets moving them from point A to point B, and all that goes with that. There are specialists for that as well, for relocation, as long as we know about it. Uh, Usually, if it's corporate, they're handled by the relocation management company and the counselor. They allow for things like that, depending. So, it's all unique.
Yeah.
But can you
And we're dealing with schools. So another big role that you play at Energy Realty is that when that referral comes in, your job is to match the right agents.
Yes.
So lots of questions go into that. So what are you looking for when you're taking an incoming referral and you're trying to match an Energy Realty agent that is going to work best with that client?
I also try to meet with both parties, if at all possible, that are moving, and find out what their lifestyle is like, how they want to replicate that here in Houston, and who's coming with them, what are their needs. If they are, what their hobbies are.
Yes.
That is huge. And that's one of the things that we're lucky enough to have, is that having one-on-one with the realtors and myself, in addition to our software that helps keep track of everything, is to be able to find that common denominator with them.
Yeah. Location, lifestyle, family, lots of different things, but
Special school needs, hobbies for the children. So,
yeah.
all of that together.
And when I can say I jumped into it, it's probably a naive approach. When I started this 22 years ago, it's just like, well, I speak some French. I lived in French speaking countries, so I understand the way people work. But there's so many, as you just explained, there's so many other different aspects that you have to be, capable of assisting these relocation clients with, which is why you and I came up with the Energy Realty Relocation Certification Program. So you had put together a very, detailed 6-week program, right? That occurs over a period of some months to make sure that our agents have already been properly trained by you with how we are going to really assist our clients. So tell our audience about this great program that you put together, because I know I did it myself and I was very impressed with it. There's a lot of other details that I don't think I ever thought about. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
Well, there's nuances with every part of referrals and relocation. It goes, like I said, beyond just the corporate side of it. But we have to follow the guidelines and policies and procedures that we are shared when it's corporate, because there are many different aspects to that, and we follow guidelines. Communication, again, is one of the most important parts of any real estate transaction, but especially when it's corporate relocation. So there are 3 different levels of that, because we have the buyer side, we have the broker market analysis side of it, pre-listing. Then once you're awarded the listing on the corporate side, there's more complication there with it.
Yeah.
To follow all the guidelines to make sure benefits are not jeopardized in any way. Yes. So then there's also outgoing referrals, and a lot of agents forget about that we can send to our friends and colleagues that cover anywhere in the US or the globe.
That's something lost in this industry, I think. And you brought that to my attention. Outgoing referrals, meaning that we have clients that are going to be moving to another state, another country, and they're going to need a professional realtor, someone who has been vetted. And that's where your outstanding network is so impressive, because you truly do have a network of realtors and relocation directors that from your 25 years around the world. Like, I think last week I asked you, I said, I got a client moving to Valencia, Spain.
Yes.
And I just say, Renee, they need some assistance. And oh my gosh, if you haven't been on the other side and tried to look for a realtor and determine who you want to hire, as a real estate broker, I had a hard time trying to help my daughter choose somebody in Dallas. So it is a lot more complicated, a lot more difficult, a lot of thought goes into it. And then you still don't know if you made the right choice. And the difference is, and that's what the key word to me is, vetted.
Yes.
These are realtors who have been vetted by relocation directors like yourself around the world, that you intimately know the realtors at Energy Realty. So you can honestly say, I think you're going to be a good match with this person. And this realtor is going to be able to help you with what you are looking for. That's an amazing reason.
So I think it goes back to what she said a few minutes ago. It's about relationships. What realtors do with buyers and sellers, I am doing with relocation directors.
Yes. So I get it now. I might not see that full picture.
Influence our relocation directors and brokers around the country and the globe that I've been blessed to know, because sometimes things just happen, just like us meeting. It just happened.
Yeah. But how did you, again, that level of esteem, I'm just going to just toot your horn a bit, because that level of high esteem for you to have really earned your reputation with relocation directors around the world is just so impressive, really. And what did you do? How did you do that?
Build trust.
Yeah.
You create relationships, you nurture them, relationships you maintain. And we share business. We're in the trenches together, day in and day out. We're all doing the same thing with the same goal. And it comes from a service heart.
Yes.
Wanting.
That's that Virgo compatibility.
and care what happens. And agents who do referrals and relocation have the same thing. They have that same quality in them that the service hard. Because sometimes, you're going to take care of a referral that is something you wouldn't normally do, but because you want to help that person get from point A to point B, no matter what that looks like, you're going to do that. And not everything is monetary. It's doing the right thing. And that's something else that drew me to Energy Realty is the integrate. So you have to have all of those pieces together, to be a truly wonderful, successful referral relocation agent.
Yes, well, thank you. I think we have a mutual admiration for each other, but really I don't think I understood the full depth of your relationships in the relocation community until we went to a few relocation conferences last year. So it's been an impressive journey with you.
Thank you.
And I've really seen the impact that you've already made in the depth of knowledge that you've been able to provide for our agents and the program, because I think you and I have a similar mindset that if you're going to work with a relocation client, we want to make sure that they are being properly taken care of. And as you and I have told our agents, it's not just their reputation, it's our reputation on the line. And you've worked so hard to build a reputation of trust with the colleagues, the people that you know, and it's the same thing with me. Yeah, we work very hard to build the relationships with the companies that we work with, and the last thing we want to do is let anybody down.
Right. And it's the trust that we also built with those relocation companies and the corporations, because we do have a lot of business that's not, they don't have technically a relocation management company. And so we are it for them.
Yeah. Yep. Are we seeing that relocation is different the last 2 years?
Yes, because it was booming at one point, if you will. Then it was stagnant. And now it's slowly increasing again.
Okay.
There it is, slowly.
Where would you say we saw the height of relocation? I know we're referring to
COVID. There was our COVID.
Wait, that was a company. Yeah, that was my side. That was going to be your referral network.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because everybody wanted to, during COVID, people from New York, from California, from Florida, they knew they could get more house if you're going to spend more time at home.
They could get
Where could you live that you would get more house for a better price?
Sure.
And that's where we saw a huge,
in the bigger spaces. Yeah. Not just the home, but the property itself.
yes. So suburbs, it's like very popular. So we saw a lot of that. Yeah. So for me, oil and gas boomed in 2000 up until 2014. We do know that when an economy is booming, oil and gas, we know that our relocation market is heavily reliant on the oil and gas industry.
Sure.
There's no talking around that. And even though this is crazy enough to think about, because I know I don't look that old, I hope not, if Rose has the camera lighting right. Back in the 1980s, I also had my real estate license in Dallas. I was in my 20s, but the marketing in Houston was terrible. It was a complete bust in oil and gas. And that was 1980, mid 1980s, where they had foreclosures, 200 foreclosures a day. Right. So that obviously people weren't relocating to Houston because of that. But then Houston shifted and Houston became a little bit more diverse as far as business and the economy. So now I got a lot in medical, but you still have about 60% oil and gas.
It is, but we have healthcare and we have financial.
Healthcare, financial. So we're seeing it shift.
And thank goodness, because Houston learned.
Yes. They learned that they could not be reliant on one industry.
We did. And so when history kind of repeats itself, right? Later on in the early 2000s-ish, almost mid, when that crisis happened, if you will, we weren't hurt as badly as
the financial crisis with banks.
Yes, we weren't as It wasn't as devastating in our area versus others. Don't get me wrong, we all suffered, but because of our past experience of the 80s, we learned.
Yeah. 2008. And the rest of the United States talks about that being probably one of the toughest real estate markets. And I agree with you. I can remember being over here in Houston going, look at that. But Houston's market does not follow the rest of the United States identically.
No.
In a good way and in a bad way.
Correct.
Because we are in the heart of the energy corridor and in Katy, which is a big part of Energy Realty's market, when oil and gas is impacted, we probably feel it a little bit more than, say, West University, where you got the medical. But that's another quick, you could keep going, segue into all these different topics that we can talk about, not just with relocation, but with real estate, is that Houston is so big. We're working on, becoming part of another organization, and we start looking at where do we dominate in our real estate markets. And Houston is so big that it is like, even when someone's relocating here, I always say, Houston is multiple cities in a city.
It is.
It is not just one city. So if someone says, I want to relocate to Houston, that there's something else for relocation. How do you even determine?
That's one of the needs assessment, the type questions. Why are you relocating? And, I could tell you a ton of different stories on what answers I receive. One of the best ones is, oh, well, I think I work in downtown so I can live in Kingwood, Sugarland, Katy, or the Woodlands.
Whew. And they don't realize that those are on opposite sides of the city.
So then we have to drill down further. School's important. You have school-age children. Do you understand how many minutes the commute time is going to be? Not miles, minutes. Because a lot of places that are larger metro will always speak in minutes and hours. I don't like saying hours, but they can be hours.
Yeah, depending how Woodlands sit down, it might be hours.
It could be. Even Katy, depending how far into Katy you are.
True. Katy, full sure, yeah. Depending on where they're located in Katy.
And that's where you have to have the conversations. And ask the questions, because why Kingwood? Why the Woodlands? Why Katy? Oh, my cousin lives in Keywood, so that really doesn't matter, I guess. If I could be there like 20 minutes away, that'd be great. Well, okay, so then we don't have to do Kingdom, because maybe the schools don't match. But we have to be able to match with an agent that can
Help and
advise
advise.
us tour, or at least advise and help narrow it down from what I do. So I'll give them food for thought, but as a relocation director, I want the transferee client to bond with the agent, not with me.
And that's where I know the conversations that I have with our realtors. And it's like, remember, you aren't there just to show homes.
No.
You're there to guide. And you're there to guide and advise based on what their needs are. And there are so many, again, this is where technology really helps us. There's so many tools today, Google Maps alone, they can plug in a time that they're departing from a location to the location. And that's a conversation I always have. How comfortable are you with the commute, and how long of a commute do you want? And then let them know that just because the commute today says it will only take you 30 minutes, that's with no traffic or with no accidents. Be prepared for what your options are, because I think the last thing we want to see is that you help someone place someone in a home. And for me, it's like the placement in a home is just not, it's about the employee coming here, moving with the job, is not going to be able to do their job effectively if the family isn't happy.
Well, you're really the community connection.
Yeah.
So it's the lifestyle connection. You are their first friend when they're relocating, for the most part, I'd say. That the realtor is their first friend, and trusted. You've built a relationship. Hopefully you've done that. And you want to be that person that they're talking about the water cooler. You want to be the top of the conversation in a good way.
Yeah, but the water cooler talk can hurt us, because when every person comes up and everyone's got their opinion, that's where they get confused.
But if you're the agent that is the highlight on the positive side of it, that your agent did A, B, C, D, and E, then those people are the ones you want. You want your clients being the source of the water cooler talk.
Absolutely. And we know we've done our job. And when the employee is there, they're happy, kids are happy, family is happy.
The corporation is happy because the transfer is happy.
Yeah. So it's a big role that you play over here.
It's a partnership all the way around.
Absolutely. And that's why you're here. It does take a village, and that's why you are part of the Energy Realty Village now. So as we're finishing up, because I know we're running out of time, I hope that we've given everybody a little bit of insight to what relocation is, why it's so important at Energy Realty, and why we are so lucky to have this amazing lady, Renée Eads, here with us to help guide us and direct us to make sure we are taking care of our clients. But Renée, what trends? Do we have any trends that we want to talk about that we're going to see as we close out here? What can we expect in 2026? We're already one quarter in.
Well, the crystal ball is anybody's guess at this point. That depends on so many different factors. We just hope it continues to be positive.
I know one of the trends I've seen. We're getting much better. We're seeing more of the internal referrals. Maybe not seeing as many of the international reloads coming in as we are accustomed to. That could shift overnight. We could start to see that pick up again. But the networks and the internal referrals, I'm just really seeing, I'd say they're coming in very steadily because of your connection. So thank you so much for what you bring. And we look forward to offering more through relocation at Energy Realty.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Thank you.